it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 12 of my 2019 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be making a card using the Hello Bluebird Oh Christmas Tree stamp set, and I am making a scene card with a whole lot of images. So this is going to be a bit of a longer video today, but for all of you scene card lovers, I hope you're going to enjoy. So I've stamped my images out with Memento Tuxedo Black ink on some Nina Solar White cardstock, and I'm coloring with my Copic markers, and I thought it might be something fun and interesting to do to make all the critters look like their Arctic versions. So Arctic fox, Arctic bunny, polar bear. I'm going to do like a little gray mouse, and then also the squirrel is going to be in shades of gray as well. All of the animals are going to be colored in using cool grays. So I'm using C0, C1, C3 on some of them, and like the polar bear here that I'm doing now, my darkest on him was that C3. And then for some of the animals, I'm also going to just be mixing things up a bit and adding in that C5 to help them be a bit darker. So there's just a little bit more contrast because I didn't want them all to be the exact same shade of gray. I'm also going to use my colorless blender when necessary just to soften things into the white, since they are supposed to be white critters, some of them anyway, just with, some depth and dimension to them. I don't want them to just be flat, so that's why we have all those nice shadows. So for the little mouse, I'm starting with the C5 because I wanted him to be a little bit different, and then blending out with the C3 and C1. I got a little color outside the lines there on his ear, so I just pushed that back with the colorless blender. Now moving on to the Arctic fox, and I'm using C3 as my darkest for him as well. And I just thought it would be something different to have all of the critters be white or gray, and then have the pops of color come in from all the different accessories. I have never seen a card like that before, and I don't know, this idea came to me right before I started the coloring. I had planned to color all the animals, in different ways, but I just thought, wouldn't that be something a little bit different? So that's what I'm aiming for today. And so I'm just going to continue with that coloring. Another thing you might notice that I'm doing a little bit differently is that I typically use warm grays for critters and then cool grays for inanimate objects. But I just thought that the cool grays would bring that really chilly feel. The critters are going to be out in the snow, and we're going to have like a dark sky in the background, and I thought that these cool grays would just add to that kind of chilly, frosty feel. So that's why I decided to go different and do the cool grays today. So I'm moving on to my squirrel, and this little guy I decided to go darker with because he reminded me of the black squirrels that they have up in Canada. I saw some in a park when I was in Canada in October, and they were just so neat to see. I've never seen black squirrels where I live, but I just thought they were so cool and interesting, so I decided to go darker with this guy as well. He's not quite as dark as the black squirrels are. I could have added in some C7 or even C9 if I really wanted him to be black, but I didn't want to go too far from the shades of the other critters, so that's why I just stuck with that really dark gray. And then even the little birds I'm going to do in these shades, I'm going to make them look like doves. So I'm using those darker grays on their forehead and wings and tail, and then I'll use the lighter grays on the face and belly. And the other little bird I colored exactly the same. Then I'm going to take the RV11 and add some rosy cheeks to all of the critters that are facing forward. So basically everybody except for the little mouse, since he's got his back turned toward the viewer. Next, I'm going to start coloring in my Christmas tree, and I wanted it to be a blue spruce. So I'm using some blue greens, BG72, BG75, and BG78. I'm putting that BG78 right up at the top underneath each of those layers of branches. and adding that shadow in there to really create some contrast. And then I'm going to begin to blend that out with the BG75. And you can see that I'm doing this pretty quickly. I'm just kind of scribbling in the color, and I'm not really worried about getting a perfect blend because I think it looks a little bit more natural, you know, for things like leaves and branches and bushes and things, if the blend isn't completely perfect. Otherwise, they look like something that's kind of made out of something soft like fur or plastic or, you know, metal, stuff like that. That is a smooth surface, but, you know, pine trees are not smooth. So I think the little bit of kind of varying shades, if you will, actually kind of helps it look more like a Christmas tree. So I'm going to finish up with that BG72, and then I'm going to go back in and add just a little bit more depth with that BG78, but I'll skip over that just for the sake of the length of this video. But you can kind of see there for yourself the depth that added with that extra layer. So now I'm doing the little tree trunk, and I'm using E44, E47, and E49. Again, just putting that shadow up underneath the branches and getting lighter as I go down that tree trunk. And then I'm going to add in some pops of red with my favorite red combo, R29, R39, and R59. So the idea that I had for this card was, I don't know if you guys know about these vintage Christmas trees that people have. In the pottery studio that I work, they are very popular. They're very nostalgic for a lot of people because their mom had one, or their grandmother or great grandmother or aunt had one of these trees growing up. They're just like a ceramic Christmas tree that's hand painted. And then they come with these little colored bulbs that you can put in. And then underneath the tree goes, you know, just like a regular white light bulb that you can plug in. And it just lights up. And people just remember these things, and they're very popular. And a lot of people tell us stories about, you know, growing up with these trees as they come into the studio to paint them. And I thought it would be kind of fun to represent those on today's card. So that's why I went with that blue spruce color. I think that's pretty traditional for those trees. And then all of my ornaments and accessories I'm going to do in primary colors. So I'm doing just red, blue, or yellow for everything because that's often the colors that those bulbs came in. So I just thought that would be kind of interesting to use that as inspiration for today's card. The blue combination that I'm using is B26, B37, and B39, and that was the closest I could get to a really traditional royal blue. And as I'm coloring, I'm trying to figure out where I want to place the various critters and accessories on the card, because I want those pops of color to be really spread throughout and not end up with like all blue on the left and red on the right and yellow in the middle or anything like that. Speaking of yellows, the combination I'm using is Y13, Y15, Y17, and then I also threw in a little YR23. It just has a little bit more of a brown in it, that YR23, and so it kind of mutes things a little bit or gives it a more golden tone. So I just added a bit of that as well. And for the couple of white objects that I had in the images that I did not want to be the same color as the critters, I pulled in some warm grays, and I used W00 and W1 for those. And then I'll trim these images out with the matching dies. I took the Hello Bluebird Winter Woods overlay and trimmed that out of another piece of white cardstock. And I'm going to be adding a little detail to them. I wanted them to look like birch trees and just not be so flat. I wanted them to match the coloring a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to those warm grays. I'm using W1, W3, and W5, and W7. And I'm going to just start scribbling in some vertical lines with the darkest color, and then I'll go over that darkest color with the lighter colors to kind of just add that little bit of birch tree texture to it. And again, just like with the Christmas tree coloring, I'm not being too particular. I'm just kind of scribbling it on. I think it looks more natural if it's not so precise. I'm going to take my card base and pop that into my MISTI. It's Lawn Fawn's Mermaid cardstock, and I'm stamping with mermaid ink, and I'm going to just finish off the inside. I really like to do this with my cards. So I've taken another squirrel and an ornament and the little deer, as well as an additional sentiment that says Season's Greetings, and I'm just going to stamp that down multiple times on the inside until I have a good impression. The pattern paper that I'm using on today's card is the Snow Much Fun collection by Cartabella. I'm just using this one sheet of print with the snowflakes on the dark blue background. I thought that would make a perfect night sky. So I am adhering that flat to my card base to cover the entire front of the card. And then I have the Winter Woods overlay, which I have added foam tape to the back of, so that I can just pop it up and have a little bit more dimension and make it look like it's really set in the woods. So I'm going to peel off the release papers, and then I will line that up and press that down into place. And I wanted to have an additional hill in there for some of my critters to stand on. So I actually took the piece of cardstock that the die trimmed out from the center and used my scissors to cut a snowdrift. So that's going to fit inside perfectly. And I'm going to adhere that one flat down with some liquid glue so that it's just set back a little ways. So now I've got all of my images together in this little dish that I keep on my desk. This is one of the very first things I painted at the pottery studio that I now work at, back when I was just a customer. And it's just the perfect size to keep your images together for a card, so I like to use it for that. So I'm going to start adding those in with some more foam tape. I wanted everything to be a bit popped up and just have that dimension that's going to match the level of the birch trees. So I added the Christmas tree first in the center, since that's the largest, and then right below that I wanted to have my Christmas gifts. And then the little polar bear is going to go over on the left, up on that higher snowdrift. And having that higher snowdrift also just gave me more room to add some additional critters, because you wouldn't have been able to fit all of these guys if they had to stand on that narrow snowdrift that's down at the bottom. So that was just a little trick to be able to fit a few more of these cute little guys in there. So I kind of had to lay things out right before I started adhering to figure out where to put the foam tape and what would just need some liquid glue, so that everything would be nice and level, because a lot of them are overlapping other images. But I just have the polar bear and the fox on the left and the squirrel and bunny on the right, and then the little mouse is right front and center in front of the Christmas gifts. And then I'm going to start adding in the little ornaments. The ones that are on the little wire hanger are going to go in the critters' hands. And then the ornaments that don't have the little wire hanger, those are going to get hung on the Christmas tree. I'll put the gold star on top, and then I'm going to take the two little birds and have them flying in front of the tree, kind of swooping down to hang up that string of ornaments. For my sentiment, I've die cut a piece of Lawn Fawn's chili pepper cardstock with the Lawn Fawn Simple Wavy Borders dies. And I'm going to take the sentiment that says "Make It Merry" and stamp that down with some Versamark ink. And I did treat that with my EK Success powder tool first, just to eliminate any static cling. Then I'm going to dip this into some white embossing powder and heat set that with my heat tool until it's all white and shiny. I'll use some liquid glue to add it to the top of the card so that it kind of looks like it's hanging from the trees. And I have foam tape behind all of those little tree pieces, so it is well supported there. I'm going to finish up the card with some crystal stickles. I just love this color because it takes on the color of whatever you put it over, as well as the iridescent glitter that it has inside. It kind of just reflects a little bit of the color of what you put it on top of. So I'm going to put it all over the place. I thought this card could really use a lot of glitter, especially since it's a nighttime scene. I thought that would really bring things to life. So I added it to all the white parts of their hats and to all the scarves and the ornaments. And I just kind of went a little bit stickles crazy, but I really love the effect. And then I also decided to dot it into the background in the center of all of the little snowflakes that you can see between the trees, just to kind of liven up that night sky a bit as well and integrate that into the whole scene. And I didn't stop there. I also decided to add it to all of the little marks that I put on the trees to help them look like birch trees. I just thought that it would be really cool to give them that little frosty look as if maybe some ice had crystallized there. And I just thought it would be really pretty. So I'm going to lift this up into the light so you can see how it sparkles and shines. And then I'll also give you another peek at the inside. And that is going to complete my card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already, or hit that notification bell if you want to be sure that my videos always end up in your feed. And I'd love to hear from you down in the comments what your favorite Christmas song is. Since the name of the stamp set was Oh Christmas Tree, it just made me think of Christmas songs. So if you'd like to keep on watching, here's day 12 of the previous 2 years of holiday card series. You can click on either one of those, and I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day. Bye-bye.